It was May, and my senior year was coming to an end. Me and my friends were already talking about the summer and going to hang out and drink together all day until we went off to college. We all already got accepted into the schools, so we thought, why not just enjoy our last few months just having the most fun we could? The thing is, I still had to try to finish off the semester on a good note to keep my college scholarship, so that's what I did. But still, it didn't keep me from having fun. After doing my homework, we were always going to the back lot of the school at night, since no one was ever there to just chill and smoke. It was always dark and empty, so it was perfect for us. But that's when something took a dark turn. His name was Mr. Wells, and for some reason, I took English with him every year from my freshman year to my senior year. He was laid back, a kind of shy person prattling in his late 40s, but he didn't have a wife or kids. I always felt kind of bad for him, as it looked like he never wanted to be at school, but was forced to in order to make a living. Anyways, Mr. Wells was a teacher who never missed a day. He was always on time, even though he had a limp on him. He wasn't a weird guy, but he didn't really talk much, mostly just making us watch videos and giving us packets regarding the class. It was early May, a month before graduation, when Mr. Wells started acting suspicious. He would start getting up from his desk before walking straight out of class, without telling us. Throughout May, he started to do it more and more, and every day, he seemed to be more and more stressed about something, like something was just bothering him. We were now at the end of May, and graduation was just 2 weeks away, when on the Friday, just before the weekend, something happened. As we were watching a video at the end of class, when the video was about to be done, we suddenly heard. Mr. Wells got up quietly and walked out of the class. He looked like he wasn't right, but he also ran out, which I thought was not possible. After that, we didn't see him again. He didn't come back in or anything, and after waiting 5 minutes, we had just dismissed ourselves. That night, I didn't really think much of it. I told my friends on the Xbox party about it, and they all laughed and joked. So, I did too. But then, the next night, I realized something strange. My friends and I went to smoke and drink at our spot in the parking lot. Since it was the weekend, nothing was going on at the school. But as we pulled up, we noticed the car. The thing is this car was none other than his, Mr. Wells. Now, I was kind of tripping out. Would this car be here on a Saturday night, after you stormed off yesterday and didn't come back? I told my friends something was off, but they just told me it was Mr. Wells, and he's kind of a weird guy like that. The thing is, I knew something was off. I wanted to find out what. One of my buddies, Brandon, was also suspicious because he had been also taking Mr. Wells's classes for 4 years. I told him that maybe we should go inside and see what's up. He told me why not do something we've never done before, also being that our time at the school was coming to an end. My other friends just stood there and laughed at us, but me and Brandon wanted to know what was up. So, after a couple minutes, they ended up leaving. And there we were by ourselves since I drove as well and could drive Brandon home when we were done figuring this out. We started off by checking his car, but in his car was still bags of stuff, probably from work. And we could see as well just sitting on his driver's seat. So he had to be in there, but why would he be? Mr. Wells was a guy who was organized and slick. So this was kind of strange for him to do. Mind you, it was late by now, and the janitor had already left, so we were the only ones at the school. Brandon and I were debating whether we should go in or not, because it was creepy. Still being young and stupid, we were curious, so we wanted to get into the school. It was our lucky day, because the first door we checked was cracked open a little bit, so we went right in. The school also had lights during the night, so it wasn't as creepy as you would think, even though they weren't all on. So we roamed the halls, trying to look for maybe something, but we couldn't find anything. However, we noticed a light of some sort by the cafeteria. So we went to go check it out. We could see that it was the door to the basement. Me and Brandon had never been there, so we were spooked. It kind of felt like we were being dragged to the lights, because it just seemed to be coincidental that we were being led to a basement, out of all places. Brandon and I looked at each other, kind of puzzled, but we were intrigued on what was going on. So we walked towards the steps slowly, trying to be as quiet as possible. There was some noise coming from down there. It kind of sounded like tools being used and a little bit of banging. However, it sounded more like an air conditioning kind of noise. So we slowly walked down the steps as there was light coming from down there. It felt as if we were being dragged down, but how was this possible? We were beginning to feel like we can go back up, kind of feeling tunnel visioned getting to the bottom of those steps. As we reached the bottom of the basement floor, that's when we saw Mr. Wells. Something was wrong, because every time I tried to look at Brandon, it felt like I couldn't. I could only hear his breathing, but it was becoming more and more intense. In front of us, Mr. Wells was just there, but he looked off. He looked a lot taller than he was before, and he was the one that was making the noise from before as well. That's when he started to get quieter and quieter. I finally had the courage to scream at him and told him what on earth he was doing. He then suddenly moved to the side, and we saw something that would scar me to this day. Mr. Wells's body was lying there, and it looked as if a new version of him was standing outside of his cut-open body. With our lives on the line now, we still were stuck in place like before. At this point, me and Brandon were screaming for help as we were watching Mr. Wells slowly turn around. That's when our adrenaline finally hit, and we were finally able to move. We ran faster than ever before, Brandon being in front of me the whole time. As I looked back, Mr. Wells looked at me, and all I could see were tears in his eyes, and the rest of his face was pale and distorted. We closed the basement door, ran out the door we had opened, to the parking lot, into my car, and drove off. As we were driving home, it was silent all the way to Brandon's house, where I dropped him off. I ended up calling the cops anonymously to see what would happen in the morning, but I was still stunned, trying to get that look in his eyes out of my memory. In a blur, when I got home, I went to sleep. I woke up in the morning panicked, sweating and out of breath because of the scare last night, and immediately called Brandon. But when I told him about the night, he was normal, like nothing had happened. What was happening? Why can I remember, but he can't? I looked at the local news. The cops had found nothing. Was I really imagining things? I tried to brush it off, day by day, but it was impossible. Every night from this point forward, I would dream of the distorted and sad face of Mr. Wells, unable to escape it. Mr. Wells also didn't show up again. Apparently he submitted a form for resignation, but this whole thing, which is so weird to me. Now, I live with the image of Mr. Wells in that basement, and it will haunt me forever until the day I die, but hopefully it will get better as time goes on.